Well, Forrest, welcome to the Dirtbags, man. I'm glad you carved out some time for us. Luke, thank you for carving out some time for us as well.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome jumping on here with you guys. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
For having me.
We were kind of bantering about your podcast here, Forrest. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what was your goal when you started that?
So originally, being in the construction industry, there was a lot of really good advice or really good little tidbits of knowledge that people always had, from the lowest man on the totem pole to the president, CEO of a company. And the only way you would get those is if you were next to that person talking to them and having a discussion. And so the idea with the podcast was basically to bring the lowest from the field, all the way to the highest in the office and, highest in the field, the lowest in the office, whatever it is, whatever position, and just get their raw knowledge on the industry and just BS a little bit about the good, the bad, the ugly, the benefits of construction and the industry in a whole. And it's been a lot of fun just kind of listening to everybody.
So, because Eagle Eye Productions is your company, right?
Yes. Yep.
Obviously, I've followed you for a while, and you're more so kind of like construction industry. You're not like focused directly on the dirt world. Granted, that takes up, I feel like, a lot of it, but you do
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we do pretty much any blue collar trade there is. I think a lot of people don't reach out to us because they think we're just dirt. They think we're just utilities, dirt, mining. Granted, that's always been one of my favorite parts of the construction process. My favorite parts were always the earthwork process, the civil package, as well as like ironwork, steelwork, because you could see the skeleton of the structure come up, and love both those sides. Everything in between is great, but to me, my love is in those two trades. But yeah, we do everything. So, framers, sheetrock, plumbers, just about any trade out there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
were you in the industry before you started this, or like, What was your driver? Like, hell, I want to get behind a camera and really capture this.
Yeah. Well, I never intended to get behind a camera. Never thought, I'd ever pick up a camera and start photographing my job sites. But yeah, so I started off in construction, fairly young. I was a freshman in high school, so 12, 13. And I had the opportunity to, I guess it would be an intern program through a drafting firm. And a lot of times what they had us doing is I'd be going out most of the time on my bike, because obviously I didn't have a car or anything at that age. And I'd go, and I'm from Florida originally. So we had a lot of
Florida.
What's that?
What part of Florida?
Citrus County area. So it's kind of Gulf Coast, central-ish location. But we had a lot of hurricanes. And so this drafting firm specifically did a lot of hurricane work. So like, a tree would fall over on a garage. Well, okay, go out there and measure it, write up some plans, come back, draft it up, send out the plans. So that was kind of my first initial contact with the construction industry. And then throughout high school and college, I worked full time as a laborer, carpenter, and kind of worked my way up that way. And then finally got out to Dallas area, where I started working for a general contractor and started learning the ropes there and everything like that. But the intention was never to like quit my job and grab a camera. But I ended up doing, I guess it would be just like one of my job tasks at the general contractor that I worked for. And then I would hire that out as a service, on the weekends to help companies out. And basically what that was material documentation. So when they had a material that was finished, like a rebar, steel inspection, concrete, roofing, fluid applied membranes, any kind of waterproofing, we'd basically go out there, take photos of it. We'd take progress site photos, and then we would link that to their floor plans and basically give them cheap insurance to show the owner, show the engineer at a later time saying, hey, we installed this per the manufacturer guidelines. So when an insurance claim came by and they wanted to blame it on the contractor, oftentimes the owner would be like, hey, you installed this wrong. Well, how are we to know this? It's behind brick facade. Well, we've got photos. So that's kind of where the camera came into be. And once I started doing that, I started taking photos of the people out there, started taking photos of the actions being, placed on site. And the companies that hired me to do that were like, hey, can you start taking more of those? And I kind of saw a benefit to showing off more of the industry. So we kind of just scrapped all the material documentation because not as many people were interested about it and dove into, showing off the industry.
I didn't know, like, through the documentation of the sites, I didn't know like insurance companies offered to have like a discounted rate to have like proof through the process. Honestly,
I don't know if they do. We just did it. So the owner, for instance, I built a lot of high schools in the area. Okay. And so we would tag it to the floor plans just to cover our own butt. And I thought, this is a pretty good idea for contractors. This is a good idea for ownerships, GCs, anybody that's out there, because you take photos of it and you see the actual material installed. So, with waterproofing, for instance, you always work it like a roof, right? Top or bottom to top, right? So the water wicks away. So if there's let's say a windowsill, flashing that was installed wrong, well, then you could just go straight over there, take a look at the photos and send them proof, which is, my original company was called Waterproof in 2 words. And that's what we did, was we showed the proof that there was, that it was done correctly.
That was done. Okay.
Yeah. And that kind of got my foot in the door with photography.
Yeah. Forrest, what was your first company? Was it Waterproof, or was there one before that?
No, Waterproof was the first one. I still get mail today. Like, hey, you got pre-proof for a credit card, Waterproof. I'm like, that's not my company anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And then what was the transition like? So obviously waterproof, but then when did Eagle Eye really come to fruition?
Well, so I started taking photos for our company for that purpose, and I started really enjoying taking photos of people doing the work. Actually, a lot of the excavation work that we do, I took a lot of photos, which are now my clients' competitors out there now. I took a lot of fun photos for, Vilhauer, RPMX out here, Cinecola, and a few others, just randomly on job sites because I thought it looked sexy. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Let's take some photos of that. And went to my marketing team at the GC that I was working at and talked to the lead of the marketing team. And I was like, hey, like, I looked on Instagram. We don't have an Instagram. Like, would you mind throwing up some of the photos that I'm taking? Like, I'd love to be able to share our company. I had pride in our company. Let's do, some stuff, market ourselves a little better. And her exact words were, well, Instagram doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't get us anything. And I was just like, what? Like, we have 0 photos. We had an account with like 10 followers. And I was like, it doesn't get us anything? I was like, I think you're crazy. And she's like, yeah, we're not going to do anything. I was like, okay. And I started just posting on my own Instagram and tried to post on LinkedIn and share the stuff. I was proud of what I was working on. Overall, I kind of got sick of watching companies spend millions on marketing when all they were doing was pushing out proposals. And that's pretty much what our team was doing. We had about 8 people in marketing, and not that they were doing anything that they weren't being told to do, right? But to push out a proposal, you need like 1 person. It's not a huge amount of work. It is work, but for an entire 8-person team, 10-person team to be working on that, my logic in it was, okay, this company is spending roughly $1 million in salaries and benefits on people to push out proposals. And I thought, what if there's companies out there like this that they're not happy, or they don't have the manpower to do like true marketing, like showing off the pride in their company. And I never intended it to be marketing either. But I just wanted to be able to like show off the pride that we have in this industry. And also in the business, we were having terrible culture. And I hated the culture that the company had. And I really wanted to change that like worldwide, not just in my organization, because they weren't going to listen to anything that I had to say. So basically I went to a mentor of mine, which I was on the project. He was my superintendent on the project, and kind of told him my idea. I was like, hey, I've been taking these photos. I've been building up this page. I think I know where I want to go with the company. I was like, I've talked to a few contractors out there that, they're like, hey, let's get you out here. We want you, to dive in on this process. And at the time we were building what the process was, because we knew we wanted to do more than photos. We knew we wanted to like help and actually add value to companies. And I told him, he goes, okay, well, what do you actually want to do with the company? And I was like, well, we want to be able to go into construction companies and preach on how they need to build up their culture and how they need to, put a service on their people rather than, their people always serving them, and kind of just give out that that general knowledge that we should all have. And his exact words, he was a really good mentor of mine. Love the guy, but his exact words were, Forrest, who's going to listen to a 21-year-old kid that is telling them this? You have no experience. You have no knowledge on the subject. You have no marketing background, nothing. And he's like, who's going to hire you to do that? And I said, I don't know, but I'm going to give it a try. And so about a week later, I quit and started it with that in mind, is to hopefully go out there and add some value to the culture in the industry. So, yeah.
So was that kind of like your moment when you're like, all right, I'm just going to do this just because these people think that it has no value and I'm going to prove them wrong?
Not necessarily. There were a few factors. So, I wasn't happy at the company I was at. The culture was terrible. Like I said, there were multiple things that was wrong. There was cancers in their leadership that were just eating away at the organization. And I could see a leadership failure in the organization. And I was like, if they would ever listen to somebody so low on the totem pole, I could help fix that issue. But nobody's ever going to do that, because one of the issues was fire the VP. Like, that's one of the issues. Fire him. Like, he's a cancer to the organization. But of course, like, nobody's going to listen to that. Right. And so why would I ever bring that to him? And kind of I was sick of being there already. I had multiple offers at other construction companies that were going to pay me more, better benefits, better culture, hopefully. And my thought was, okay, I have 3 months saved up in the bank. I might as well go take the leap and start a business. I've got 2 or 3 people that want to sign a contract tomorrow. So if I quit today, leave in 2 weeks and start a contract with them, which is funny because none of them actually signed a contract. At the time when I quit, I thought they were going to sign a contract. They're like, yep, 100%, we're going. And I ended up sending in an email, said, hey, I have the opportunity to work for myself. Let me know if you'd like me to stay here for 2 weeks. And they basically were like, no, leave all your equipment at the job site, get out of here. Because I'd already made a bad name for myself. Wow. Yeah.
So you were, they didn't like, we don't want you here anymore.
They were mad that I was coming to the leadership with issues that I could help fix. And it was bringing more work to their plate. Right. So yeah, one of it was safety culture. We had a pretty bad safety culture, and I shut down the job site all the time because our manual said, shut down the job site doing this. And our manual said, you have to follow by, our contractors, you have to hold them liable to their own safety manual. So doing that and knowing that I'm the competent person on site, that if something goes wrong, I'm going to jail for 45 years, 50 years, whatever it is. I did that. They didn't like that at like that higher level. And I said, look, if you don't like it, you're gonna have to change your manual, because I'm the one that gets in trouble for it. You're not. It's in your book that tells me to do this. And that didn't go over very well. So I'd already kind of burned a few bridges, not intentionally, but just trying to do the right thing, basically. And they didn't appreciate that. So it was already kind of dwindling down, where they were asking me to work that weekend. And I was like, no, I can't work that weekend. And they were like, well, if you can't work that weekend, then, go ahead and leave now. So I ended up just leaving all my equipment and, left the job site listening to Cody Johnson. Look at Me Now. I remember that song. That was a good, man, I felt free at that point. I was like, all right, we're gone.
So that was just like a weight off your shoulders, especially if they're getting mad at you for what they've written that they expect of their employees. That's wild. I can't really grasp that.
Well, the issue was, like I'd been telling them, like, look, guys, we have to fix something, like we have to fix something, or else, like, I can't stay in an organization that's not a morally good organization. It's kind of putting me on edge every day, because there were things that the leadership would do that would be like against the ownership. And I was just like, guys, you're lying to the ownership. And they're like, well, you can't say anything about it. And I'm like, well, if they bring it up, I'm saying something. And they're like, well, then you're not in this meeting. And there were just issues all around. And they kind of knew that I wasn't going to budge on any of that stuff. And so they made it hard. And yeah, so when I finally left, when I finally quit, I was excited that they said, hey, get out of here. And something that, I can probably say this because she doesn't work there anymore, but my HR manager actually paid me for those 2 weeks. Yeah. So because all the payroll went through her, and so she signed off. I don't think any of the leadership ever knew. And that was huge, like huge. Cause that was money that I really needed starting the business. And, that helped a ton. So.
Right. So Forrest, like taking that culture that you left and then bringing it to your own company and then fast forward to now, like what have you done to kind of change that or do your best to change that? And like, how is that looking right now?
Well, so the idea was always to kind of come into a company, sit down and observe how a company works, right? Not to necessarily give them the game plan day one, which is a really tough sale because, you can tell them, hey, like, here's what we intend to do. But until you get into the organization, you don't really know how to do it because they're all different. They all have different weaknesses. They all have different benefits. And so the idea was basically to go in there and observe organizations and see where we could add value to them, whether that was taking photos and showing them off more, whether that was, teaching them about social media, videos, websites, branding, all that kind of stuff. We kind of fell on the marketing side of things. And that's about probably 10% of what we do as a company. We dive in more on a backstage approach where we go in and we observe the company and we give third-party advice, basically. They can take it, they can leave it. A lot of times if it's safety related and they don't want to do anything about it, then we typically leave that partnership just because we can't be liable for their safety, as well. So we go in, a lot of times we make a really good relationship with the ownership, the leadership, and their people. And then we kind of talk to both sides separately and figure out where the hurdles are that we need to jump over, whether that's, okay, the guys out in the field aren't receiving information as well as they'd like, whether that's a software that you guys should have adopted, 2 years ago, or, hey, you're not estimating properly over here. You need this kind of, approach rather than this kind of approach. You're not attracting people well because of this. So how do we attract people? How do we change that? What's your core vision, mission, value system? What's your character as a company? What's your culture as a company now? Okay, is that the culture that you want to keep going, or is that not the culture? Because a lot of times they see a culture in their company that's not accurately representing their core values as a person. And that's what we try to dig out is their value system as an individual. And a lot of times if you have a leadership team, we dig that out of everybody. And so, you, me, and everybody out there has a set of core beliefs that they guide their life on. That's like their moral obligations in life. And being able to take those and apply them to business is important to the business culture. So a lot of times that's a huge portion of what we do is we try to dissect that out of their head, out of their mind, out of their heart, and try to apply that and show them the tools. We try to give them the tools after knowing all that information to help build up the team that they want, basically, and the culture they want.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. So the more you talk about it, like when somebody asks you what kind of business you own or what do you do, like, do you even call it a marketing agency or is it, what do you call it?
So we typically tell them that we're like construction consultants. But I've always hated the term consultant because there's so many different types of consultants out there.
Yeah.
We consult them basically in every portion of their business. So I don't really know what else to call it. We consult them in marketing. We consult them as a friend. We consult them on, everything. If they're a faith-based company, we'll talk religion with them. Like, it's not a big deal. We'll talk politics. We think business is super personal. It's how they make a living. It's how their people make a living. It's how I make a living. It's how we provide for our families. We talk about family. One of the things that was important to me when I started this is I needed time for family. I was working 16, 18-hour days for 6.5 days straight. And, sometimes 115-hour weeks, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And that was one of the goals was like, I remember not coming home for like a week and seeing how much my daughter had grown. And I was like sickened almost. I was like, okay, this is not a good culture. Everybody in the organization knows that. And that was really important to me as I quit was I had time for my family. And so we incorporate that. We've got a client right now that I ask them every single time we go out there. I say, hey, it's 7:30 at night. I'm just driving back from your job site, and we're on the phone for like an hour and a half on my drive back or something like that. And I'll be like, hey, have you been staying out this entire week this late? I was like, how does your wife like that? And I was like, have you given time for your wife and your kid? Because he's got a newborn baby. And I'm like, are you? And he's like, man, I should do more. And I'm like, you got to do it, man. It's important. You got to do it. So, we'll be a friend. We'll be a consultant. We'll try to basically look at the company, see what it needs, on a super fundamental level and bring it back to the basics, and try to build from there.
Was that the Gilbert Sons?
No,
I was going to say, because
he's awesome, man. He is spending, he loves his little boy, man. And that guy is just an awesome guy.
I listened to your guys' podcast, and that was a really good listen. So thank you for putting that out. But
of course, it sucks, man. We filmed that entire podcast, and one huge rule in my business is redundancy over redundancy. So in everything we do is supposed to be like triple, 4 times redundant, whatever. And we failed even that kind of plan still fails. We filmed the entire podcast. We came back to the VRBO. I started uploading everything, and I didn't realize that on one of the SD cards, there was actually 2 files. I thought it was just one big file, and we had gone way over time that it was 2 big files. We ended up formatting like an entire podcast, and I was like, I wanted to show that one off because it was a really good podcast.
That was a good podcast. Yeah. I remember when you guys posted some snippets of it. I was pretty anxious to hear that one. Kind of circling back to like the business consultant side. When you started, was it hard to get? Was it hard to get respect from these business owners? How did you obtain that with them? Was it the conversations you had? Was it just your knowledge? Like, how did you say, I know how to create culture. I know how to dissect the problems and figure out a solution.
Yeah. Well, so since the beginning, our sales approach is to not sell anybody on our services. It's to show them on it. So, when we talk to clients a lot of times, so the first month I quit my job, and I tell people this and they kind of like, they're like, what? The first month I ended up contacting over 1,000 companies that first month. LinkedIn messages, text messages, phone calls, cold calls, emails, searching websites, emailing out. I mean, just 1,000 people. And out of 1,000 people, we had like 10, 11 like yeses that were like, hey, let's talk about this. We had a couple dozen like, yeah, maybe we'll sit down and talk about this. But out of 1,000, we had about 10. And basically how I approached it was, okay, hey, like we're starting this. This is a new company. This is where I come from. Let me just come out there and show off your company. You need photos to show off what you do. We can add value in that area. And then once we would get in there and start adding value as far as photos and video, we had a lot of times where we could just take the time and talk to the ownership, take the time and talk to leadership, and just kind of share our passion with how we would like to change the industry and change the culture. And a lot of times it fit what their beliefs were as well. And it kind of helped gain that bond with that client, until we could actually come in there and trust each other as far as like, okay, you can add way more value than just the photos. And we still have clients today that they reached out to us for photos. And it's probably the best like review that they've said for our company is like, hey, we thought we were hiring you for photos. And when you came in, you completely changed the organization as a team, not just me, but like as a team, we'd come in there, we'd organize it in such a way that it completely changed their trajectory. And they're like, we'll never stop using you. And like, we appreciate everything. They told me to raise the price, and they told me that they'll never stop using us. And I was like, okay. And I love that guy. He's such an awesome guy. And their business has grown a ton. And not just because of us, but because they're set on the right track, right? The value system is there. And that was really cool to see because, then it helped prove after years of hard work and thinking that, okay, the process does work. It's not like a process that you can show data. Like I can't show people that this works on paper. It's kind of like a faith that you have to have in the process.
Yeah. So that it's really interesting you say that because we do something very similar in our agency where we don't like most marketing agencies that I talk to, they're more ROI based and like, we're going to guarantee 10X, 100X your leads, whatever it is. And where I'm the opposite. And it feels like I'm on an island sometimes, but then I talk to you and I talk to Aaron Witt and I talk to, Daniel Yates and Raphael with BuildX Media. And I'm just like, it's just a different industry. And that's really what it is. And because I'm a little different than you, Forrest, because I actually have no construction experience, started off just in business and marketing, and then found my way into the industry. And then that lit the fire. So it's that's why I love talking to you, but especially Luke Payne, because him and I have been friends forever, but we've been business partners essentially for about, since April 2020. And
that's awesome. Yeah.
That, our knowledge is, combined is just so interesting because he's got, the hands-on experience, and then I've got a totally different experience and viewpoint. But then we clash together with our morals and our principles of just, we want to work with people. We want to put people in our corner. We want to help this industry and really just, do good things, do the right thing and, add value to the industry. And like this podcast, I mean, Luke and I have talked about it. We're like, what is this podcast going to be? The dirtbags, obviously we're going to drink some whiskey, we're going to have a good time, all that. But
let's get it.
Hell yeah. And honestly though, it's like, we want to add value at the same time. And so, we're trying to, build this community, and it's been amazing. Like people are reaching out to us asking, hey guys, like, do you have any suggestions on how do I like raise capital, or who do I hire for taxes and things like that? So I wanted to say that because I appreciate you coming on. Luke and I have been talking about this for a while, but just having your insight and your business mind, because it's different than other guests we've seen on podcasts. And so we definitely appreciate you jumping on here and sharing like your business, especially because how deep you go into business, because it's not just 10x leads. It's so much more than that.
Well, and we tell people, and I'm glad you put it like that, because like what we need to do as an industry, especially as companies like yours or mine, is look at it as like a selfless service to the industry, right? Like if we weren't making any money on this tomorrow, would we still be doing it? Yes. The answer is yes. We might have to work in another organization, but we would essentially be doing exactly what we're doing here in another organization or outside of that organization on our spare time, right? We all love this to death. And we love the people to death, right? And we want to see the industry grow. We know this is an industry that has a lot of unique features, but it also hurts in a lot of different places. And so like you said, is like, okay, where are the pains in the industry? Where can we heal those through the value of our company? And that's the goal, is to kind of selflessly serve the industry through our value system. And that's why our mission as a company is to create a community of like-minded values that provide those limitless boundaries. So, we want to create a community as long as anybody in the industry has the same value system or like it, right? To make things better and they have a moral spine, they've got a backbone to them, then we're going to do business with them. And I tell people all the time is like I've been on the phone for years consulting companies, and I don't want to say this like, because people are going to think I'm just working for free, but which I guess I am, but I've been on the phone with companies that have never hired us to do anything for years, just consulting them over the phone as like a buddy. And just trying to tell them like, hey, you need to do this better. You need to do this. Like, this is where like, and they ask, it's not like I'm just like bashing their company or anything, but they're like, hey, like, what do you see on your perspective? Or, hey, we're having trouble with this. And just lending that discussion. I guess it's just opening up discussion to those people. Cause those people, like you guys know, running a business is a fairly lonely road, right? Like you don't have, a lot of relationships out and about that really relate to running a business. It's really tough to talk to somebody else that goes, hey, I've ran a business. I know what you're going through. There are plenty of them out there, but it's tough, at least in our zone, in our area of the country, to have like a buddy that you can go drink beer with and actually relate to that. And so being able to talk and have that open discussion, and of course, me being a Christian, that scripture, in the multitude of counsel is wisdom, right? The more you discuss things, the better ideas that you come into contact with. And I think being able to just open the door to that is extremely important.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of brings into a point, like another reason that Luke and I started the podcast, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well, is just getting that information out to the people that want to start their businesses. Absolutely. I feel like there's so many stories that have similar storylines, but obviously different variables within them, to where I don't know when the right time to start is. I don't know if I should start. I hate my job where I'm at. I feel like so many stories are similar that if people have other conversation or listen to these other conversations from people that have done it, almost gives them like a confidence. But then, like on the Luke and I side, we want to give them a platform to kind of go to and say, okay, I don't know anything about this. Where's a good starting point? So, hearing your side of things too, like you said, you have a little girl at home. I got a little girl at home. You obviously want what's best for your family, and you want to build that family and have just, have fun with them. Right. So I feel like that's another business driver that a lot of people don't talk about is, we're all guys. We want to be able to, have this life with our family. And I feel like, going into business, doing it for yourself is one of the best ways to create that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think like I think one of the main drives for me to start the company was to provide an industry that I felt was like sufficient for them. Right. So like both my son and my daughter, they love construction. Like we watch my videos all the time. We watch other people's videos. We just go out to the job site and look at stuff. And my boy, he's still not old enough to really understand what construction is, but he goes, dirt, daddy, dirt. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly right. We're passing by a dirt job, and anything construction is dirt. It doesn't matter if they're putting up steel, it's dirt. But it's just really cool because you get to look at that and say, okay, well, is this an industry currently that I'd like to have my kids be a part of? And if the answer is no, then you should be actively pursuing the change in that industry. And I still would love for my kids to go into the industry, even if it was right now. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I'd hate for my kid to go in the industry. And I'm like, well, then you're the issue. Like you're not doing anything about it. And the industry could be way better, but like, I know for a fact my daughter or my son would be very successful in the industry just at the standpoint that it's at. Now it does change extremely, like in an extreme measure over the country. Like down here in the South, like I wouldn't have any issue. Like my daughter on job site, I'd feel like she was like safe, like among brothers. There are job sites I've been up north, and this is not to like bash on the North or anything like that, but there have been like sketchy job sites where I've been like, she probably shouldn't be walking on this job site. Right. Just because of the type of people that were on the job site. And so it's very weird, West Coast to East Coast to South to North, like there's different industry in all these different locations. So how do we fix it in all these places? Right.
Yeah. Forrest, that Fargo, North Dakota, I've heard, man, is pretty rough up there.
Yeah. Man, those people. No, one of my best friends is actually from North Dakota. He's probably one of the most genuine human beings. We've actually questioned as a friend group down here if he's actually like an angel, just like in human form. Cause he's like the most genuine person you could like, doesn't do anything wrong. Just awesome dude. And he's from North Dakota. So is that where you guys are at? Is Fargo?
I'm out of Fargo. Yep.
You're out of Fargo. Yeah.
I grew up in northern Minnesota with Luke, but I'm in Arizona right now.
Nice. What part of Arizona?
Scottsdale.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we might be out there very soon.
Oh yeah. Let me know, dude. Cause we just moved down in August and, did Nebraska for a few years. And then, like I said, grew up in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, but Luke and I actually high school together, did that whole thing and just
That's awesome.
Football together. We wrestled. Well, we didn't.
Hey,
wrestle,
there you go.
We're on the same wrestling team.
Same team. Whoa. Hey, football is technically wrestling. I mean, you guys played on pads with each other then.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's cool to see like, especially with Luke and I just, high school is a, different thing. But then when you graduate and you're like, yeah, what else are you passionate about?
What now?
Oh, business. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we just hit it off on like a new level. And it's just, I know Luke and I, and even you, Forrest, like we're going to be talking and doing business together for the next, can you imagine how many decades now? And it's just, that's what excites me and gets me fired up is like, let's do this now and put the people in our corner to, just do our part to change.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool that you say that. Cause like whenever I think of like right now, I think of, okay, in 10 years and 15 years and 50 years, like when I look back at it, like, what am I going to see? Am I going to see that I'm extremely proud of where I'm at now and the people that I've made connections with? Or am I going to see like, man, I could have done a little bit better. Right. And making the connections with like you guys and like the other companies out there that are doing what we're kind of like what we're doing. Right. Like my goal is to make that whole group into the community. Right. Like no matter where you come from, whether like Daniel Yates, like you mentioned, Daniel, super cool guy. Love that guy to death. He didn't come from the construction background either. And he fell in love with it once he got to see it. And it's just super cool to bring to see people that are coming into the industry also having that same passion, and learning about the culture in the industry. Cause it's not like an industry that is like a corporate industry, right? It's not like anything else that's out there. I talk about it, and I know a bunch of military guys probably hate me referring to it like this, but it's very similar to like the military. Like, you know, you've got your rank structure, right? And it's very, very structured. In a good company, it'll be very, very structured. You've got this progression that you have to go through, right? You can't just like rise the ranks overnight. And you kind of become a brotherhood over the lifetime of it. So it's very unique. And it's cool to see people trying to make it better.
That's a really cool comparison. Actually, I've never heard that. Obviously, you know, shout out to the military, thankful for what you guys do. But like you said, that whole structure is very, very similar.
Yeah. Especially in like larger corporations, you know, like smaller organizations, they don't typically have, like, they'll have the structure, but not like on a corporate level. Like a corporate level will be like, you need to do these things before you raise up to the next, right? Small companies are like, hey, you're performing the task of a superintendent, you're now a superintendent. So, I mean, similar but different. And I just think that the brotherhood, sisterhood aspect is important. You know, like, you rely on the guy next to you to make sure that you're safe in your job, and they rely on you to make sure they don't die in the job. That's very similar to the military. Not that we're over, you know, in a warfare, you know, in a zone, but, you know, we're here watching out for each other, and you end up bonding and loving the guy next to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Forrest, I want to dig into a little bit deeper on your business side. So everybody talks about, get a refill. Get a refill.
There you go.
You know, I feel like a lot of people talk about like the good, and, you know, oh yeah, it was all rainbows and sunshine, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, you know, like you said, coming from a family and knowing you weren't happy, like, how did you overcome like some of your struggles? Like, what were, obviously I'm super motivated, you know, what were like some of your motivators? What were things where you're like, all right, I got to kick it in gear here. You know, I need to get this done, or I have to get this done. Like, how did you overcome your struggles basically?
It wasn't all rainbows and butterflies, obviously. And it didn't come to me all at once on how to like start a business, or if I should start a business. I was just struggling as far as, like, I didn't feel like I was a good enough dad, didn't feel like I was a good enough husband, working in the industry that I was working. And one of the huge issues was having that, you know, I'm sitting on the job site at 10:30 at night, not a single soul is there. And I'm working on submittals, or I'm working on, you know, finding issues that haven't arisen yet on the job site so that I could RFI them or something like that. And I remember there was this one night that I had an entire electrical package. We had a job site that had started super early, had a super short schedule. And the products, this was around the time that all the steel tariffs were going out, and all the products were like 24 months like behind, and our schedule was only like 15 months. So figuring out how to fit that, you know, get those submittals submitted in time, get the products on site so my superintendent could go per schedule. Just sitting there and stressing about it. And I was like, why am I stressing this hard over something that's in reality doesn't make a difference if I do it tonight or tomorrow morning or the next morning. And sitting there at night looking at the spec book and just not even reading the spec book, looking at the words, but thinking about like, hey, am I a good enough dad? Am I a good enough husband? And the answer was like, no, you know, I'm not there right now. And that was probably the biggest struggle as far as getting out of where I was is obviously that's not a culture that I'd like to see in anybody else's case. Right. And then it brought in another aspect, another issue, which was if I'm working this hard and a company doesn't care about me as much as I'm loyal to them, like why? What's the purpose? Right. So I knew two things is one, there are companies out there that would care that I'm working this hard, right, and be loyal back to me. And two, there were other employees around the country that were probably in the exact same boat that I was, that was looking for those companies. And how can we connect the good companies with good employees was kind of what struck me. And I was just like, okay, like, I don't know how to do that, but I kind of want to do that. And that was a kind of a struggle trying to figure out, okay, how do we do that? Before the business was even started. This was years and years before, you know, anything was happening. just, it was mainly a mental struggle in reality to try and overcome all the different doubts and fears and just say, okay, I don't really care about the money because I can get a job tomorrow. And let's like dive into something that I feel in my heart will make a difference long-term in other people's lives. And that, I think that was kind of a struggle. It was tough to go out financially on our own. Obviously everything, we didn't have a loan. We didn't have a credit line. We kind of had no money in the bank, and we just kind of, I was told the wife, I was basically like, look, I'll never not provide for you. Whatever I have to do, whether I have to cut, grass, whether I have to be, installing a sewer line or doing, grocery checkout. Like, I don't give a crap. I'm going to make the money so that we can have a roof over our head and food in our bellies. Like, it doesn't matter. And when I came home and I said, hey, like, I quit, I'm starting the company, I had a little bit of a knot, coming home and saying that. Like you said, it probably felt free driving out of there. It did. It felt really, really free. Huge weight off my shoulders. But then I pulled up, obviously had a little bit of a worry, walking in there, and I knew my wife would be on my side no matter what, all right, let's do this. And, but it's still a little worrisome. I walked in, I told her, and, it was late at night. And she was still up, and, I said, all right, I quit. And she's like, okay, all right, let's do it. And I was like, all right, yeah. All right, sweet. Let's do it. Let's go. Like, I'm pumped now. Like, let's make it happen. And, I don't know. I don't really know much other, I guess, struggles. I'm trying to think of some, but it was really just like, I'll make it happen no matter what. It wasn't really, I didn't really have failure in the back of my mind. At the end of it, I could always go get another job. So that was always there. And it would be easy to get one. So that wasn't a huge worry. It was mainly like, I want this really bad. I want to make a difference. And the only way I can make a difference is if we start this company. And at the time I really didn't know what I was doing at all. I had no idea where I was going to, what process I was doing, didn't know how advanced we'd get into it. And we're still developing that, but I was like, we've just got to make a change in the industry. We can't be so reactive in this industry. We have to be proactive, and nobody's being proactive. So
how did you overcome the fear of the unknown? That is a question I ask myself all the time. And I keep telling myself, I'm like, either I was really dumb or I just didn't think it all the way through. But I feel like that's a huge block for some people too, where they're like, well, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. They're scared of the unknown, and that's what makes them stop. And it's like, if you were to do it, you'll almost find a way to make it happen. Mm-hmm. But obviously everyone has their own, way of doing things as well.
Yeah. Well, two things I think you need to realize, that like you're way more capable than you put credit on. A lot of people put limitations on themselves, right? So if you say, like, I don't know, I'm going to go do this, just go do it. Like, don't give yourself an out on it. There's no other, chance of you failing. You just go out and do it. The other thing is that I had that same superintendent that I had, the mentor of mine, he goes, Forrest, because I asked him, I said, like, I just want to quit. Like, man, I'm just sick of this. And he looks at me, he's like, Forrest, you'll only stomach as much as you can stomach, and then you're gone. And it's that gut-wrenching feeling that if you've been in the industry and you've been at a company like this, I tell everybody to leave immediately. If you've got that gut-wrenching feeling when you're driving to work in the morning and you have it all day long, and then when you leave, it's like still there. Like, it's like you got punched in the gut every single day. And you can only take that kind of beating so long, right? Until you're finally like, either I'm sick of this, I'm done, I'm out of here with no plan, or you figure out another way to go about it. And that doesn't give you an option either, right? You only have one other option, and that's to find something else, whether that's another job, whether that's to go out on your own. There's a lot of people out there that felt that just like I don't want to go to work tomorrow. And that's a bad place to be at, because a lot of people get stuck in like, I need to do this to provide for my family. And they do in some cases, but you can always do something better, and this is where we bring in the whole, do you love what you do? Because if you don't love what you do, then why are you doing it? Right. Nobody should live with that gut-wrenching feeling in their stomach. Nobody. And if you don't love construction, you shouldn't be in it. It's that simple. We don't think everybody is built for construction. we've got organizations out there that think everybody should be welcomed into construction. I disagree. And that's another thing that like kind of got me when we first started. It was like, I don't have any other option. Like I have this gut wrenching feeling. I can't live with it anymore. Got to get out. And so I was devising a plan a year before I quit, and I just kind of stuck with it as much as I could until I was like, okay, all right, I got a little bit of money in the bank. Let's quit. And so we did.
God, that was beautiful. I love it.
So Forrest, I know you've talked about, you helping other businesses, provide this opportunity for these employees and, really getting rid of that feeling. But I mean, do you kind of realize the magnitude of like, you are that business owner now as well? Like the people that come work for you, like you can give that opportunity, which I'm sure you do, but has that kind of set in as well, that you're providing that for these people?
I think it's opened my eyes to, more of the, put me in the seat of the business owner that we're working with. With anybody that comes into our company, I want to give them the most wonderful life that they could have. I want them to be passionate about what they do. I want them to be happy. I want them to have freedom, right? And I want them to have a purpose. I always say that every company should give their people freedom and purpose. A company that gives you freedom and purpose, that you're not going to lose a lot of people in your organization, because not a lot of companies give out freedom. People in our organization are free to do whatever they want to do, as long as they help us get the job done, and as long as they're pushing for our mission. I hope, and I think they are passionate about what we're doing. That's huge to me. Is if we have people in our organization that are passionate about changing the industry. It hasn't really set in like you said it, like the way you put it. I hadn't really thought about it like that before. But I've just always wanted to give people the best life that they should have, right? And that hopefully that they're loving what they're doing. And we try to give that to our clients and our partnerships, as well as teach them how to do that to their organization. So hopefully we're doing that. Absolutely. We hope we're succeeding.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an incredible opportunity, and, you can preach that to other companies, and then you get to practice it within your own values and your own team. So it's what an incredible opportunity, not just to go out on your own, make money as a business, change an industry, but hopefully to change other people's lives. And they come work for you, and you give them the freedom, you give them the passion, and, that renewed, drive to do what they want to do, spend more time with their family. Because I'm definitely big on the, I don't even call it the work-life balance, because I think that's kind of out of whack as well, but just, doing what they want to do, being passionate, seeing their family, going to their kids' baseball games, things like that. And it's just, if I can do anything under my power to like help them achieve that, that's what I want to do. And, us three being business owners, I know we're very appreciative of our team, and we also wouldn't be anything without them. So it's just really cool to see, that's who's grounding us, is our team, people, and even like our clients too, and just being so personable with them.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why we do it, and I think you guys probably do it too, is like you don't take the beating of being a business owner because you enjoy it, right? Like you do it for your people. And I think like at the long run, and I keep telling my people this, and this isn't like, this sounds weird, but I tell them, I'm like, I hope we all are rich at, one day. Like that's not the goal right now, right? Our goal right now is not to be rich. They've got a higher salary than I have, that I give myself. And not every business owner is going to do that, right? We're a small business, so I kind of just give myself just enough to get by. And every other dime goes back in the business, into payroll, into equipment, into, software, all that kind of stuff. And over the long term, that's what I see 50 years from now, is have I made the people that I've hired better in life? Have I given more to them? I want to have a comfortable living as well, right? And the reason why I'm into business is to be able to change lives, and hopefully be able to be content with it over the long term, and be, successful. But right now, our goal is not to make a killing, money wise. Like, could we make a bigger impact? Yes. With a lot more money, we could make a bigger impact. We could hire more people. Could that throw us off our current course? Yeah, probably. So it's one of those things that, like, I'm glad that we're growing at the rate that we're growing. Do I wish I had 100 people that I could utilize right now? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that every person on my team has a good life, and every person that we're working with, we're making their life better too. So, yeah.
I love it. Well, I don't know, Luke, I'm checking on time here, and it looks like we're right around that hour time frame.
Sorry guys, I've been talking too much.
No, that's exactly what we wanted for us. The amount of knowledge that you laid on us in that quick, like 56 minutes. Awesome. I loved it. I learned
it didn't feel like it was 56 minutes, man.
Not at all.
I enjoy talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah. Grab one, man.
But no, again, I appreciate your time. I know Luke appreciates your time. Luke, I don't know if you have any other questions. I know I could ask Forrest a million questions, but we got to keep some for the next podcast, right?
I was going to say,
hey, there you go.
Lastly, just wrapping up here, Forrest, we appreciate the hell out of you being here, really just using your voice and your platform, but also just being a human being. I mean, just talking shop, talking shop with the boys on the Dirtbags podcast. Like, this is what we do.
Yeah, I love it.
We love to do this. So, and I don't know why I keep thinking about this, but earlier before we started recording, you asked me like, is it okay if I feature this like on my podcast? And we're like, absolutely. And I just love that. Like, there's no doubt in my mind or no question of like, we're just like all in with each other and just saying like, hell yeah, like let's do our best to help each other out here and try and make a difference while we can. And, we've got a lot of years to go, and, each day is a blessing though. And that's how I see it. And so we definitely appreciate you being on, offering your expertise and just telling your story as well. And I know a lot of our listeners appreciate it. They follow you either on TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is. So we definitely appreciate you being a fellow dirtbag with us.
For sure. And I'm wondering if this is sponsored by Dirt Gear, because I've got underneath this one is a Dirt Gear shirt. So I don't know.
Well, rip it out. Now it is.
Dirt Gear. There we go.
Devin Dwyer is the unofficial sponsor of this Dirtbags podcast.
He doesn't know it yet, but he
doesn't know it yet, but he is.
Shout out.
Heck yeah. There you go.
Yeah, man, it was, there you go. There you go. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun to come on and chat with you guys. And like you said, right, just like be humans, like in every encounter that I do, whether you drink or don't drink, that's up to you. But like, I look at it like I could go out and have a beer with anybody, right? I can go out and I could talk to anybody. And I don't give two craps what they're doing in life. If we can have a quality conversation, I want to be able to take part in that. So it's really fun jumping on and just sharing, I guess, our passions about what we're doing.
100%, man. Well, we appreciate it, Forrest. And we'll definitely be in touch soon. And, let's reconvene after this and get after it. So
absolutely, man. Thanks for having us, guys.